Well, he vetoed Tal'Darim Altar, so obviously we won't have the 4-gate versus 4-gate. I guess I was about to call it insanity, but it's not really insane. It's just sort of boring on Tal'Darim when you do have PvP. But we will be on Antigua Shipyard where any build plays, and we'll see how it turns out.
Yeah, but one thing very important to note, this is the MLG version. It is going to be forced cross spawns, and with that, you always have to be on the lookout for a bit more cheese. Cheese, definitely a possibility. We don't see any probes doing any sort of crazy maneuvers across the map, but this is going to be something that they have to at least sniff out for before they scout out their opponent.
Yeah, just send the probe into your base a little bit, see whether this proxy 2 gates or a pylon cannons are going up or anything. But we have seen that 4-gate can be pretty effective on this map as well. You do have that smaller ramp leading down to your natural, so you can use that to try to defend with a sentry. And we've seen Rocker actually respond to 4-gate with some nice building placement. Places those gateways flush up against the side of his base so that there's no high ground to really warp in on, and he sort of boxes out, walls off his opponent. So I don't necessarily want to see a 4-gate play, but I do like that that's sort of his reaction when he does face that build.
Alright, we'll see what both of these players are going to do. It looks like the timings are pretty similar between Rocker and Insur. The gateway should be coming in, and then both players should most likely be scouting after. No, Rocker's still deciding not to scout. Meanwhile, Insur not scouting either, just scouting the inside of his base, making sure that there is no proxy pylon, and now making his way across the map. Rocker is going to have a slightly better economy because of this, but Insur will have very valuable information, and if Rocker perhaps feels confident enough to fight off against any 4-gate by simply defending with well-placed buildings.
Yeah, Insur is going to be able to see whether a second gateway goes down after the cybernetics core, whether a second gas goes down, and how much gas has really been mined. So he can sort of start checking off builds in his mind as he does see the buildings go down for Rocker. But I think Rocker, knowing that it's cross spawn, is still going to get sort of the same information here from Insur. He's going to be in the base of Insur right as the cybernetics core is about to finish, it looks like, and then from there he's going to have the same scouting as his opponent. So he's able to get a few more minerals out of that build, and Insur is going to be blocking. It looks like both players working to block the gas there in Rocker's base. So we have seen some gas steals in PvP, and Rocker going to prevent that, taking a 19 gas as his second gas.
Alright, so nicely done. I like that play by Rocker. Rocker coming back over. Insur doing the same thing as well, setting up his own gas. And now it's time to look at the probe count. If the probe count stops at 20, this will be a 4-gate versus a 4-gate. Chrono boost now happening on the cybernetics core, and Insur has stopped his probe production. So it is, nope, getting back up to 21 now. Spoke a little bit too soon. Perhaps he just...
a second gateway for both players as well, so it wouldn't really be a traditional 4-gate as you add those 3 gates all at once.
That's true, that's true. Alright, so we'll see when these players will start to really deviate from each other. It still looks like a true mirror match, and even in terms of their chrono boost and their gateway timings, only differing by about, at most, 10 or 15 seconds.
But what you can do with these 2 early gates is you start pumping stalkers out, and then you can go for Twilight and go for early Blink, and then you can sort of keep up constant production of stalkers. We'll see if either player goes for that sort of build. We do have Insur already coming out with his, looks like, second and third stalker, but we've got Rocker coming out with the sentry, so he might be playing actually 2 sentries. He might be playing for more of a mid-game timing here. Insur is just taking a little bit of a stroll along the southern part of the map with that probe. Maybe you're going to be placing down a proxy pylon, and here it comes. We'll see if Rocker does spot that. He is doing some scouting with that stalker, and that's definitely something you need to do. If you can shut down proxy pylons in PvP, it could be huge.
Yeah, right now we also see Rocker going into a robotics facility, which is the normal course of action. And as long as he trains up a good amount of immortals, the immortals should be able to deal with those stalkers. The only question that I truly have is the sentries and how effective or how useful they're going to be. Each sentry costs 100 gas, and that really hits your immortal and your stalker numbers very, very quickly, as we now see Insur finally pushing in. He does have a pylon now coming in, and now Rocker is in a bit of trouble. Will a force field go down in time? Yes, the force field does go down in time. Does Rocker spot the other pylon? Yes, he does there, but he is not attacking it for some strange reason.
Yeah, this is going to be really tough for Rocker. I think he's going to have 3 force fields unless he starts warping in more and more sentries. But Inser at this point probably kicking himself wants another gateway or two. He's just got 2 gates, so this is really light pressure by him. And Rocker should be able to defend it. He's going to have to be spot on here with his force fields. He cannot allow the Stalkers to get up that ramp because then Blink is going to follow once it does finish and he can be overwhelmed. So he's actually having to sink a lot of resources into these sentries. I know he would much rather be making Stalkers and Immortals as one Immortal already out here, but having to invest in more and more sentries really to wall off and buy time here.
Yeah, Zealots are now being added. You can see the probe now trying to make its way up, unable to get up there. So Rocker being very, very careful as now the proxy pylon looks like it will get destroyed. The Stalkers going to try to make their way up. There is Blink ready, and here we go. There's a force field. It does miss just ever so slightly, but you can see multiple pylons coming in from Rocker, and this is a brilliant play as it's going to limit the amount of Blink room as those Stalkers may get stuck on the low ground.
But Rocker was never able to take out that pylon. Needs one more shot by, there he goes, by an Immortal, and I think he's run out of force fields at this point. He does not have that magic number of sentries where they can sort of regen. Actually, he might have 1 or 2 force fields about to come up, but now that he has these 2 Immortals, he should be able to push out and defend here. We saw he was going to try to go for a very, very fast expansion. That was sort of foiled by those Stalkers. Inser back at home has added another gate, so he has 3 gates at this point, and he's also added a Nexus. He's lost a few pylons, so he is side blocked, and it's 63 to 54. Both players sort of having a little bit of early success. Inser does have the soft contain here. Not quite sure Rocker can take this on. If good blink micro comes from Inser, he could just poke in, do a little bit of damage, blink out, poke in, do a little damage, rinse and repeat.
Yeah, there comes the force fields. The blink does come in just a second late with 3 Immortals. Rocker should be able to take down and deal a lot of damage to these Stalkers. The Immortals dealing 50 damage per pop, only attacking slightly slower than a Stalker. So that is important to note, as a Stalker normally has around, I believe, 10 damage per second. Meanwhile, the Immortal close to the 30 to 40 range, as the Immortal is now trying to chase after, but unable to really do anything there.
Yeah, and with 3 Immortals, that's sort of the magic number where you can really start basically almost one-shotting these Stalkers as long as you do a little bit of focus fire. The worst thing is to sort of just A-move into your opponent, allow them to get some shots off, and then blink away without getting any kills at all. So it's really about focus firing and making sure that you do damage when you do have little battles like that. And now we do see a Warp Prism coming out for Rocker, as well as a Twilight Council, so I imagine he's going to be going for maybe Blink himself, or he could be going for DTs, knowing his opponent went for that Twilight Council tech.
Alright, here we go. The Stalkers are engaging very well. They did get a blink, a focus on a Stalker, and blink away once more. So really, Inser is doing a great job just utilizing the blink to its full effectiveness. But as blink finishes for Rocker, that's going to really change things up. But Rocker can't over-invest in blink. We do see that there are 4 Zealots in a Warp Prism, and that is going to perhaps cause a lot of problems for Inser, as Inser is going to be forced to do a round of Stalkers back at home. And now the Stalkers look like they are simply retreating, perhaps knowing they cannot contain for that long.
Yeah, it looks like Inser is going to get a full scout here. He got a Stalker up in the main of Rocker. Rocker actually used a lot of force fields to try to prevent that Stalker from getting up there, but it just blinked right by them. We'll see whether this Warp Prism is able to do any sort of damage. Inser so far has been pretty decent with his blink, really using it the utility of blink early on.
Alright, in comes the Zealots. No, the Zealots not yet quite ready, perhaps waiting for those Warp Gates. Warp Gates do have 2 Warp-Ins ready, and now we are going to have an engagement in the center portion of the map, but the Stalkers will be able to blink back home. Zealots now dropping in and warping in as well, going to town on the probes, and Rocker going to get in some easy shots on units as they are warping in, so this is not looking good for Inser. Stalkers are now trying to walk all the way back home, not quite sure why they're not blinking into the base. There we go, as the Zealots are taking down a lot of probes. Inser actually only losing 3 probes so far, and it looks like the Warp Prism will have to try to fly away, but now we have the main attack force of Rocker at the front door, and here we go.
Yeah, Inser doing his best to sort of get some force fields down, and wow, that's a lot of force fields in a PvP there. Both players actually have more sentries than we typically see in PvP. Oftentimes it's just Stalkers and Zealots coming out of the gateways, but both players invested pretty heavily in sentries. We've got 4 on one side, 5 on the other, so a lot of force fields will come into play here, and without those massive units to break the force fields, trapping units and really taking pot shots could be good a good thing to do.
All right, it looks like Rocker's gonna try to warp in a couple zealots underneath that warp prism and then pick them up and do another drop. That seems to be a very strong strategy so far. He should be able to get in perhaps 7 zealots inside once more, but there are already zealots sitting inside the base. Both sides don't have upgrades on those units yet. So at the 14-minute mark, we don't have level 1 weapons upgrades anywhere.
Yeah, that's I would say sort of common in this matchup. You don't usually go for upgrades, but upgrades can just really do a lot of damage if you get into the late game, especially once Colossi come up. If somebody has maybe +2 and there are no upgrades on the other side, it's a huge difference. We do have one Zealot coming into the mineral line of Rocker, actually going to take down, I think, 2 or 3 probes, in fact. So a little bit of harassment on the part of Insur, and both players pretty even at this point. We did have the robotics bay finish for Rocker a little bit earlier, and he's got a second robotics facility coming out as well. He's supply blocked though, or else he would have his first Colossus coming out.
Alright, we'll see what's going to happen. The pylon's only taking 25 seconds to build, but that does add 25 seconds of build time onto your Colossi, and that 25 seconds could be key, especially if Insur tries to do a push here. You can see that the blink will force an engagement off over here, but it looks like the warp prism is ready to go once more. Here we go. The stalkers are now blinking down. Zealots are trying to come in, but Rocker going to lose this warp prism rather quickly and lose this entire drop. The warp prism going to simply try to hide and perhaps do a little bit of harassment later.
And we've got a blink in the main here of Rocker. Insur did a nice job there using the observer he had in position to pick off just a few buildings. I think he got 2 pylons there, and Rocker has been facing some supply blocks here as that warp prism finally does go down. He's only at 108 against 130, so just a moment ago he was down about 5 food, but because he was supply blocked when he was trying to get out those Colossi, and because he did lose quite a few pylons there, he's down by about 22 food at this point, and Insur just pushing across, might be going for a little bit of aggression. He's got a lot of units coming with his own Colossi, so should have a big fight coming up soon.
Alright, Stalkers are coming, here they go, but is this going to be a split army here? Colossi, Stalkers, Sentries, Immortals, units are trying to make their way around. Stalkers are now blinking back. Who has the better position? Rocker is kind of flanked here, but Insur's units were split a little bit apart. Can't really tell who's coming out ahead. Immortals, Stalkers, both sides still blinking. Insur still has a slight 20 food advantage as Rocker tries to focus down even more units, and it looks like Insur is going to be the first one to start running.
Yeah, he's going to come back. He's got a few zealots on the way to try to do some reinforcements here. He doesn't actually have a pylon. Oh, that is a pylon close to the third. And Rocker's actually going for a third at this point. So he's going to be about 400 minerals behind Insur. So Insur is just going to be pushing here. Rocker does have a second Colossi finish, and Insur's Colossi is attacking buildings rather than units. So a critical mistake there. That might just be what Rocker needs. He's got 2 very low HP Colossi. He really needs those to really shell the units of Insur as Insur blinks in, takes both those down, and now he's knocking on the front door, and I'm not sure Rocker's going to be able to defend.
Yeah, Insur with that blink, that clutch blink to focus down the 2 low hit point Colossi may be the final nail in the coffin. Purple versus pink, I don't quite know who's winning this battle, but it looks like the reinforcements are arriving for Insur at that proxy pylon that was never cleaned up, and a more Colossi still joining in on the fight as well.
Yeah, it looks like Rocker is trying to do a little too much at once. He added 2 forges there to really go for upgrades, and he does have 1-1 finish, and he tried to establish that third, and Insur just sort of beat him to the punch and attacked earlier, and took advantage once again of that timing. He had a nice blink play doing harassment as well, and there's the GG from Rocker.
So Rocker, once again, unable to get his first Protoss victory here on Wednesday Night StarCraft underneath his belt as we go into Game 4 here in Wednesday Night StarCraft. Infinity 7 now taking a 2-1 lead here on Wednesday Night StarCraft.
Yeah, I think the stream chat is saying that you're a little loud and I'm a little soft, so maybe you could spend between the game here trying to balance things a little bit differently. I'm not quite sure what you can do.